Hello, welcome back. Let's start our collective worship for today, shall we? Good afternoon, everyone. The Lord be with you. Now, another parable today, and this parable is one that Mrs. Morgan Huntley tells me Year 6 are going to be looking at as well. So this will tie in with the RE that you're doing in Year 6. Now, I wonder if anybody has broken anything recently. Do you know what I've broken recently? I'll actually show you. So I had to get some glasses for the first time for when I'm doing reading, because that's the age I'm getting to. And look, can you see what I've done? In fact, both of them, both of the arms have now come off, which is really annoying. I wonder how I could fix those. Have you got any ideas what I can do to fix it? Actually, what I have done, whilst we're in lockdown and I can't go to an optician's, is I've used some special tape to try and stick them together. But I have got a kit and I've got some tiny little screws that I can use, but I'm not doing it very well. So that's something that's broken in my house. And another thing that's broken is my son has a poster and it got ripped. How could I fix that one, do you think? What could I use to fix that? And something else that we've got broken. Jack said he had a hole in his sock. How could I mend that, I wonder? Any ideas? There are some things that are broken that can't be mended, aren't there? So we broke a glass a few weeks ago, and that fell on the floor when we were doing the washing up, and that was just, we can't mend that one because it was in too many pieces. So sometimes we can't mend things that are broken. Some of these things we've looked at, we can, can't we? And there are other bigger things that we can try, like our environment. We are trying to do lots of different things at school, aren't we, with recycling, to try and mend and stop making any more damage to what's happened already to the environment. And I know lots of people are doing more and more things with making things. Instead of throwing everything away now, we recycle things. We try and make new things. So that's really good. I wonder what you would do if the handle came off a mug. Would you know how you could fix that? What about if your bicycle had a flat tyre? Do you know how you'd fix that? And what about if you got a cut on your finger? How would you fix that one? I bet you could think of answers for all of those. Now, I wonder what we would do if one of our friendships was broken. I wonder how you might mend that. Perhaps you'd like to think about that now, or have a chat with somebody near you, because you can't mend that with needle and thread, or with sellotape, or super glue, or a puncture kit, or a plaster, can you? Any of those things that we might have used for the other broken things we talked about. I'm going to read you a story from the Bible, and this is a parable that Jesus told, and this has some ideas about mending broken friendships, and it's called the parable of the Unforgiving Servant. So, Jesus' friend Peter came up to him one day and asked him a question. If someone does something wrong, something that upsets me, and keeps on doing these wrong things, how many times should I forgive him? Should I forgive him as many as 7 times? Jesus looked Peter in the eye, shook his head gently, and he replied, no, not 7 times. You should forgive them 70 times 7 times. Then Jesus told Peter a story to help him understand more about forgiving and about living life God's way. Once upon a time, there was a king who had lots of servants. One day, the king was checking through his account books when one of his servants was brought into the room. Now, that servant owed the king a lot of money. Rather a lot of money, in fact. In fact, he owed him thousands of pounds, but he didn't have enough money to pay his debt back. Sell this man as a slave, shouted the king, and his wife, and his children too. And that way he will have enough money to pay what he owes me. Imagine how the servant felt. Well, he fell down on his knees in front of the king and he pleaded for mercy. I'm so sorry, he said. If you just give me a little bit more time, I'll earn the money and I'll pay back everything I owe you. The man looked so sad that the king felt sorry for him. And in a kind voice, he said, it's okay. I forgive you. I'm cancelling your debt as well. The servant was very surprised. He leapt to his feet and left the palace rejoicing, celebrating, feeling happy. Just as he came out of the door, he bumped into another servant who owed him some money. And it wasn't a lot of money, just a few coins. Even though that first servant had been recently forgiven by the king, he grabbed the second servant and shook him, and he demanded that he paid back the money. The second servant didn't have any money, so he too fell to his knees and he cried out, I'm so sorry. If you can just give me a bit more time, I'll earn the money and I'll pay back everything I owe you. But you know, the first servant took no notice and he had him thrown into jail until he could pay his debt. When the king heard what had happened, he was very angry and he asked the first servant to be brought to his palace. I'm not at all happy, he roared. I forgave you. I cancelled your debt because you asked me to. So why couldn't you have done the same thing for your fellow servant rather than having him thrown into jail? And now I'm going to send you to jail until you can pay back your debt in full. Jesus explained to his friend Peter that God is like the king in the story. Christians believe God forgives us every time we tell him we are sorry for the wrong things we have done. And he wants us to treat our friends in the same way, in a similar way, forgiving them each time they say sorry to us. Now, I wonder what you would say was the key word in that story. I think maybe it could be forgiveness. That's a Christian value that comes out in this parable. Now, I wonder if there are any things you might think you need to say sorry for. I wonder what it means to forgive somebody and how you feel about forgiving people if they've done something wrong. Do you find it easy? Is it not easy? Are there different situations when you can think of that you've forgiven somebody? Are there situations you can think of where you've been forgiven and you've said sorry? Because that's what it says at the end of the Bible story, isn't it? Jesus tells us if we've done something wrong, we say sorry to God and he will forgive us. And I think that's similar when you've fallen out with a friend. To help mend those friendships, and everybody has arguments sometimes, and the same in families. I think if you know you've done something wrong or upset someone, being brave enough to say sorry really helps mend that friendship. And then the person who you said sorry to needs to also take that on board and forgive you. And that really helps mend friendships and arguments that have happened in families. So going back to the questions at the beginning, I said, what could we use to mend a broken friendship? And maybe the answer, a good answer would be forgiveness, wouldn't it? So I'm going to say a prayer. If you'd like to join in, you might like to put your hands together, either way, and bow your head. Maybe close your eyes. Some people pray with their hands like this, up to you. But if you wish to join in, say amen at the end. Dear Lord, thank you for today's Bible story about forgiveness. Thank you that if we say sorry to you, you give us a fresh start, just as Jesus told Peter in the parable that we heard today. Please help us to be forgiving people in our school and in our homes. Amen. That's one to think about. Anyway, I hope everybody is well, and I hope you stay safe. And I hope to see you all very soon, because I miss people. So let's go in the peace of Christ.